So, welcome to your Accounting Mentor, a segment on our podcast where we summarize the key discussions during our live lectures. In this episode, we are looking at Financial Reporting Session 2, where we spoke about IFRS 13, IAS 10, IFRS 5, and IAS 16. So, we're going to go through the core principles and the various things that we must understand when it comes to these standards. So, we open up the discussion with a question on IFRS 13, revenue from contract with customers. And we discussed this particular question here, JL Holdings, where we looked at the principal market, the most advantageous market, and how we can value the inventories of the entity. Then we came to one of the most interesting accounting standards, and that is IAS 10, events after the reporting period. And so we said the events after the reporting period are the transactions or events that are occurring between the reporting date and when financial statements are authorized for issue. And we said these events occurring can either be an adjusting event or a non-adjusting event. How do we know whether something is an adjusting event or non-adjusting event? The question is simple. Does it provide evidence to conditions that existed at the reporting date? Does it provide evidence to a condition that existed at the reporting date? If what we are seeing is providing us with evidence to a condition existing at the reporting date, then it's an adjusting event, so we amend the financial statement. If it is not providing us with information about something or condition that existed at the reporting date, then it's a non-adjusting event, and that will be disclosed in the note to the financial statement if it is material. And so we discussed some of the adjusting events, some of the non-adjusting events, and most importantly, we came up with some of the illustrations, like if an entity makes a discontinued operation announcement after the end of the year, that is a non-adjusting event. And we came up with IFRS 5, non-current asset held for sale and discontinued operation. And we said in accordance with IFRS 5, the sale recognition criteria must be met for an asset or a discontinued operation to be recognized as a held for sale. S means management must make a decision they want to sell the asset. 2, the asset should be available for sale. In other words, the asset should be put in a saleable condition. The entity cannot say, oh, we are selling the asset, but they are still using the asset. L means locating a buyer, or the entity has identified a buyer. This is through advertisement. Okay, locating a buyer has been initiated. So they are advertising that, hey, we are selling this asset or we are selling our business. And then E, it is expected that the sales will be done within 12 months. If at the reporting date, management has made a decision for the sale, the asset has been put in a saleable condition, management has advertised this, then the condition has been met at the reporting date, so we can recognize it. And this is also tied into IAS 37, provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent assets. So can an entity make a provision for a discontinued operation in accordance with IAS 37? If the announcement for the discontinued operation was done after the end of the year, it depends. So let me give you an example. If an entity has, because per IAS 37, to make provision for discontinued operation, number one, there must be a detailed plan for the discontinued operation. Number two, the management must have made an announcement, must make an announcement or raise an expectation of the discontinued operation in respect of people who are expected to be affected. So there has to be some announcement in respect of that. So if at the end of the year, there is a detailed plan, but no announcement, then announcement was made after the end of the year, that will not be an adjusting event. Because at the end of the year, the criteria has not been met. But there is another situation there where management has a plan, but they hadn't made an official announcement as at the end of the year. The announcement was made after the end of the year. However, prior to the end of the year, management has started making decisions about the shutdown. They've closed certain places. They've canceled certain contracts. So although the official announcement came after the end of the year, because management has already started implementing the close down or the shutdown decision, we would treat that as an adjusting event. And that is a crucial point there that you must understand when it comes to dealing with non-current asset held for sale, events after the reporting period, and making provisions for discontinued operation, because all of these are intertwined. Then we came to the grandfather of all accounting standards, and that's IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. But generically, we said tangible non-current assets can be divided into two. We have owner-occupied tangible non-current assets, and then non-owner-occupied tangible non-current assets. And so if an entity has a tangible non-current asset and it is holding on it for capital appreciation purposes so they can sell it, or the entity is undecided, or the entity has rented it or leased it out under an operating lease, then that is an investment property and must be accounted for in accordance with IAS 40, carried at fair value, with any fair value gain or loss recognized in the P&L account. But if it is owner-occupied, meaning that the entity is using the asset for administration, for the day-to-day running of the organization, then that qualifies to be a property, plant, and equipment and must be accounted for in accordance with IAS 16. And so we said that the initial cost of an asset shall be the purchases cost or the construction cost, plus all other directly attributable costs incurred in bringing the asset to its present use. And so we said the purchase cost, for instance, will exclude any trade discounts that we received, but we include any other costs that we are incurring to bring the asset to its present condition. But then we said there are other costs that cannot be included in the initial cost of the asset, like employee benefits after the asset has become ready for its intended use. Abnormal costs that are incurring will not be included. Allocated general administration cost of relocating staff to go and work in that particular asset, cost of formal opening, even cost of training employees to use the asset, that cannot be capitalized. So, because whether you train them or you don't train them, the asset is ready for its intended use. So the key principle that we then walk away with was that, number one, capitalization of cost ceases when the asset becomes ready for its intended use. So once the asset is ready for its intended use, whatever cost we are incurring, although may be related to the construction or the building or manufacturing of the asset, the cost would have to be written off in the P&L. So if we borrowed money and we use the funds to construct our head office or construct a new head office, that doesn't mean all the interest on the loan will be included in the cost of the building. No, it is only the interest that relates to the period of active construction. And that is IAS 23 borrowing cost. We'll come back to that later. So once the asset is ready for its intended use, capitalization ceases. Other costs must be written off in the P&L. 2, depreciation of assets commences when the asset is ready for its intended use and not when the entity begins to use the asset. Very important. So an entity can have an asset and the asset is ready for use in July, but the entity will wait and start using it in October. We don't care. Once the asset is ready for its intended use, depreciation starts from that date. And the last thing is that any incidental income generated, especially when we are dealing with construction of assets, will not be netted off against the initial cost. So, for example, we are building our head office. Then as construction is ongoing, someone comes to us and they are looking for somewhere to put some things. And so we rented the place out. As the construction is ongoing, we rented the place out to someone to be able to put their things there. And they gave us some money. That income we are getting cannot be netted off against the initial cost of the building. It is other income. It will be recognized in the profit or loss account. So these are 3 golden rules of accounting for assets that you must understand. If there is anything that you will forget in this session 2 discussion, you cannot forget these 3 rules, because the way we capitalize cost depreciation of assets, and dealing with other incomes in respect of assets that are under construction will be crucial in accounting. And so these are some of the things that you need to understand thematically when we talk about our discussion in session 2. We solved some questions and then also came to subsequent measurement of assets where we have the cost model and the revaluation model. And from session 3, we are going to be getting excited to look at the cost model, the revaluation model, and take questions to look at how subsequent measurement of assets can be treated in the financial statement of an entity. Remember, the accounting standards are interconnected. The accounting standards have principles, concepts, and rules that you must obey. Once you understand the principles, concepts, and rules, then you must be mindful about dates or timing, because that is going to be important, and that will determine the way various calculations will be done in the financial statement. The last takeaway you must understand is that whatever that we discuss under the initial measurement, recognition criteria for property, plant, and equipment, that same idea will apply to IAS 40 investment property, IAS 38 intangible asset, IAS 2 inventories, and some few other standards as we proceed in the discussion. So if you find this video valuable and you have learned something, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and follow our pages online everywhere. But most importantly, if you want to get access to our full courses to study directly under my mentorship for the examination, then you can head on to our website, NhyiraPremium.com, to enroll in our courses, or you can send us a message on WhatsApp or call 050-114-9296 so that you can complete your enrollment and start studying under my mentorship to join our community, so I can hold your hand, provide you with the blueprint that you need so you can go to the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and most importantly, pass the examination. Thank you, and you can check the page for more videos, and I'll catch you on the next one.